I hope y'all are having a great day, and today I'll be reviewing Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This book has been hyped up so much, not only on BookTube but in the blogosphere as well. I remember when it was being released, there were praise reviews everywhere. I think this came out around the same time as Shadow and Bone. I think Shadow and Bone came out June and this one is August of 2012. And so bloggers were posting their reviews for those two books around the same time span, similar time span, and people were saying that these were two fantasy books that you could not miss out on. And pretty recently, people have been raving about this book on BookTube as well, and I've heard that the main character is super kick butt and that the book itself is just really amazing. And I've seen it on people's top 10 lists and everything. It sounded so good, so I had to read it. And I thought I would really love this book. I was so confident that I would love this book. I trusted the hype so much that not only did I buy this book, but I also bought the sequel because I thought that I was gonna jump right into this one because I was gonna love this one, and yeah, so I bought both of them. To be honest, I thought Throne of Glass was a little bit underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, it was good. It was solid, it held my interest, but it's not one of my favorite books. It just fell a little flat for me. Usually that happens with me. When everyone seems to love a book, usually I won't like it as much as everyone, so I guess the hype was just too much for me on this one. For those who don't know, Throne of Glass is about a girl who is named Celaena Sardothien, and she is the most notorious assassin in the land. But for the past year, she's been suffering through a death camp in some salt mines. But she's taken out of this camp and she's introduced to the Crown Prince of Adarlan because the king is hosting a competition to find his champion, which is basically a fancy title for his right-hand man, basically the king's personal assassin. It's a super lovely job. I heard that it comes with like a lot of flowers and happiness. And so Celaena is obviously not going to stay in a death camp when she has the option of competing against these 23 other contestants, and the Crown Prince chooses Celaena as his contestant to compete. That's basically what this book is about. It's about the competition. I thought it was a really fascinating concept. There's a lot of groundwork, there's a lot of world building in this first book, and because it has that competition aspect, I was expecting it to be a lot more fast-paced and a lot more action-packed than it actually was. I never really connected with Celaena, nor did I buy into the romance in this book, but overall Throne of Glass is a very entertaining read. If it sounds interesting to you, I would say that it's worth a read. I'd suggest picking it up. And now I'm going to go more in depth, so if you haven't read Throne of Glass and you wish not to be spoiled, then I suggest leaving. Goodbye! Alright, so let's start off with the main character, Celaena Sardothien. Right off the bat, I got this impression that she was a bit of a Mary Sue, and I really don't like using that term, but that's what I felt like. That was the thing that popped into my head when I was reading this book in the beginning, because Celaena just seemed too perfect for a main character. She was the best assassin in the land, so she never messed up. She was just so talented. She spoke foreign languages fluently, and she played the pianoforte masterfully. She was drop-dead gorgeous and had like every boy noticing her beauty. She had perfect aim. It was like there was nothing she was bad at. And Celaena knew it. She knew how flawless she was. She knew how gorgeous she was. She spent a lot of time admiring her own appearance. There was just a strong sense of pride and arrogance and cockiness and ultimately smugness that just didn't sit well with me. And because of that, I didn't fully enjoy Celaena's character. Sure, she can fight, and of course, that's always something that I really admire in a heroine, but I wanted more to her character than that. I wanted some vulnerability or something about her that would make her more relatable. For example, the book that comes to mind for me is Ender from Ender's Game. He's a genius and he's basically perfect at everything he does because he's so smart, but he has like these darker feelings and he has moments of vulnerability that allow the reader to connect with him and relate to him, and he's more than just a perfect human because you get to see all the turmoil that goes inside of him, and I wanted that. I was waiting for that with Celaena, and I don't think I ever got it. Let's talk about Dorian Havillard, the Crown Prince of Otterland. I thought he was just dull. I think I was supposed to find him charming, but I didn't. I thought he was, just a pretty face. I wanted to see more layers in his character that would make him more interesting, but I never did. I thought the romance between Dorian and Celaena felt really unnatural. It seemed kind of forced and contrived. I didn't feel the chemistry between these two characters. I felt more chemistry with Celaena and Chaol than I did with Celaena and Dorian, and even Celaena and Chaol didn't have that much chemistry together. What kills me though is that I think Dorian is the one that Celaena will end up with. They've already experienced a relationship in this book, and even though Celaena ended it with him at the very end of the book, I still think that Dorian is ultimately the one that Celaena will end up with. Also, Celaena and Queen Olenna have that connection, that blood bond, and I feel like Sarah J. Maas is just highlighting or throwing up a neon sign to the reader like, hey, Celaena is destined to be queen. Also, for those who don't know, when this story was on Fiction Press, the original title was not Throne of Glass, but Queen of Glass. And guess who Celaena has to marry to become queen? Not Chaol. Chaol Westfall was such an interesting character. I think he's one of my favorites. Him and Nehemia are probably my favorite characters in this whole book. Chaol is very, very serious, very professional. He's very dedicated to his job, and he's good at what he does. And there's something I admire way more about a person who is working really hard and is really good at what they do as opposed to someone who's just born into it. And even though Chaol is stony most of the time in this book, they do give you like a little sliver of his backstory that leaves you wanting more. During the final duel, when Chaol is coaxing Celaena to stand up by just saying her name over and over again, and Celaena has to fight through the pain, and all she does is look straight into Chaol's gaze as she struggles to stand up. I don't know, there's something about that scene that I really liked. I loved it. The majority of the reviews I've read, like on Goodreads and on blogs, have praised Chaol, so I'm left wondering, is there anyone who really genuinely likes Dorian? I feel like Dorian is the Aspen of Throne of Glass, except in this case Dorian is the prince. That was a really bad analogy. But yeah, I will keep on hoping that Chaol and Celaena end up together, even though they probably won't. As long as Celaena wears the amethyst ring, I'm shipping them. Even if Celaena takes it off, I'm shipping them. Who am I kidding? Something that annoyed me was the mention of Sam. Apparently he's the boy that Celaena loved before, but now he's dead, and we really don't get anything about him. He's like mentioned a couple of times, but that's about it, and that just really bothered me. Also, just the fact that his name is Sam, in a world where people are named Celaena Sardathian and Chaol Westfall and Dorian Havillard, just Sam. What? Nehemia was such a cool character. I loved how everyone underestimated her, and then she ended up being like the most kick-butt character in the whole book. She was so awesome. What a bamf. And the way that she had her languages down, and not just like the regular languages when she was pretending to have like that accent and struggling with the common tongue. No, she also knows about magic and word marks, and she can like heal, and she's just so awesome. And the way that she's so loyal to her country, like she's a princess who's working with the rebels, that is so cool. I love Nehemia, love her. You would think that a novel centered around a competition for assassins, thieves, and soldiers would be really action-packed, but that's not really the case for Throne of Glass. Actually, I think a lot of this book was spent with Celaena just reading a bunch of different books and spending hours at a time in the library, and also trying on different dresses and taking walks. She took 17,000 walks. If the competition in this book was like the selection competition, you know, where things are meant to be frivolous, then that would have been okay. It would have made sense. But for this book, it just didn't work. The plot was definitely on the slow side, I thought, but there was just enough entertainment to keep me reading, but it wasn't the kind of like edge of my seat, flying through the pages, exciting, if that makes sense. Like there wasn't enough suspense, I guess, until the final duel at least. The final duel was pretty awesome. The tests themselves were just kind of underwhelming. Like some of them were archery and knife throwing, and I'm like, are you serious? This is a test? Like that's what Dauntless kids do to train. The scaling of the castle wall was pretty difficult though, I would have to admit that. And the ordering of the poisons was definitely one of the more interesting ones. When they were scaling the wall and Nox fell and Selena went to save him, was anyone else reminded of that scene in the Sea of Monsters? It's like right after the opening scene where Percy is doing that weird obstacle course and one kid falls and Percy's like almost at first and then he just like goes down to save him and you're like, really, Percy? You're gonna be that selfless? That's what I was reminded of. Was it just me? Okay, moving on. Maybe the slowness of this plot was attributed to the fact that Sarah J. Maas originally posted this story on Fiction Press, and the thing about Fiction Press and fan fiction is that most of the time authors will sometimes post filler chapters, which are just chapters with like fluff, meaningless plot, posted just to keep readers entertained, to let them have something to read, to keep them updated when they don't really have anything substantial to post. But then again, this is a published book, so it went through rounds and rounds of editing. Throne of Glass, interestingly enough, doesn't really read like a young adult novel. The writing is not like most YA books that I read. It's a lot more sophisticated, and I appreciated it because I thought it suited the tone of the novel very well. This is a really random note, but can we just give kudos to Sarah J. Maas for remembering that even fantasy girls have their periods? Like, I feel like people just tend to forget about that. But no, not Sarah J. Maas. Throne of Glass was by no means a bad book. I know this review is bordering on the critical side, but that's just how my reviews are. That doesn't mean I didn't like this book, because I did. Throne of Glass is a really good book for the first in a series because Sarah J. Maas did include a lot of groundwork and world building, and there are so many great directions the rest of the series can go. I know Sarah J. Maas is signed on currently for 3 books, though she wants to write like 6 or 7, and I think there's enough that she set up that it can stretch on for that long. But if we're being honest, I don't know if I would want to be around for all of those books. Throne of Glass is an interesting read, and I'm really excited for Crown of Midnight. Throne of Glass is a good book. It's worth the read. I just didn't think it deserved as much hype as it got. So if you've read Throne of Glass, definitely let me know what you thought of it. Who is your favorite character? Are you Team Dorian or Team Chaol? Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and happy reading! Goodbye!